For 10 long years, Queen Varelia ruled the stars with calm eyes and a cold heart. She was the ruler of the Altherian Empire, one of the most advanced and powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Her people called her the Mind Crown because she always used reason before war. But even in her greatness, she was lonely. She had no equal, no one to stand beside her, no one to trust, and so she made a royal command. Bring me champions, warriors, geniuses, anyone from any world. Let them come and let them try to earn my side. Across the galaxy the message echoed. And across the galaxy they came strong, brave, beautiful, proud. And every one of them failed. Some tried to fight to prove their strength. Some wrote poems or played music. Some knelt and begged to be chosen. Some lied and said they loved her. But Varelia saw through all of it. This one wants power, she would say. This one fears me. This one kneels too easily. She watched, judged, and sent them away, or worse. Soon people stopped trying. The galaxy whispered that the queen was testing everyone, but only so she could laugh at their weakness. But far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, no one cared about the Altherian queen's games. Earth wasn't even part of the galactic network. Its people had only started building cities on Mars. They were new to space, unimportant, uninvited. That changed because of an accident. It started with a probe, one day. A broken Altherian data probe, thousands of years old, crashed into a Martian outpost. The humans there didn't know where it came from. But it wasn't like any tech they'd seen. So they studied it. They copied a small piece of its energy system and used it in a mining tool. They didn't know this act sent a signal, an ancient emergency beacon directly to the Altherian Empire. Within hours, a scout ship arrived in Mars orbit. They scanned the humans, strange, primitive, violent, and yet they had somehow unlocked Altherian tech without even knowing what it was. They reported this to the queen, and Queen Varelia's eyes lit up. She sat alone in her crystal throne room, deep inside a planet-sized palace. She wore no crown because she was the crown. Her long silver hair flowed like water down her shoulders. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes deep violet, and she smiled for the first time in many months. Bring me one of them, she said. Human, her advisors gasped. They are too raw, my queen. They are not even part of the Star Treaty. They still use fuel rockets. Varelia raised a hand. Precisely. Let us see if the wild spark of a young world is what I've been missing. The order was given. The one they chose wasn't special. His name was Cal Trenner. He was 32 years old, born in Houston, Earth. He had been a combat engineer during the War of the Three Colonies, smart, skilled, but not obedient. He had once disobeyed a direct order to destroy a building. He had found out there were innocent families hiding inside. He saved them, but the mission failed. His commander called him a traitor. He was thrown out of the military. Now, he worked repairing old mining bots on a Martian base, quiet, alone, drinking instant coffee and keeping to himself. So, when a strange gate opened in the sky and Altherian warriors stepped out, he thought he was dreaming. You are summoned by the queen. The lead warrior said, I didn't vote for her, Cal answered. Then they stunned him and took him through the gate. Cal woke up on a smooth, glowing floor inside a room that looked like the inside of a pearl. The ceiling was a dome, and lights moved like stars above him. He was given clean clothes, black, simple, soft. He was led by silent guards through tall golden halls. He saw strange creatures, tall, short, scaled, glowing. They all stared at him. And finally he was pushed into a great chamber. It was massive, with floating platforms, golden statues, and a soft white mist covering the floor. At the far end stood Queen Varelia, surrounded by her court. She raised a single hand, and silence fell. Cal looked around, confused but calm. He had been through worse. A voice echoed in the chamber. The queen's voice. Human, you stand in the Hall of Crowns. Many before you tried to prove their worth. None succeeded. Cal blinked. Okay, what are the rules? She tilted her head. You may speak, you may move, but first you must kneel. Cal frowned. I don't kneel, he said. The court gasped. The guards stepped forward, weapons hummed. But the queen raised her hand again. She stared at him. You refuse? I don't kneel for anyone, Cal said. Not back home, not here. You want me to lie? Or be honest? The queen was silent, then she smiled, not a fake smile. A real one. Interesting, she said. Very well. She stood. The room went silent again. I offer you a choice, human. Face the trial of Varaka. If you survive, I will listen to your ideas. If you fail, you will be remembered as the only human who ever stood before me and did not kneel. Cal crossed his arms. Sure, why not? Sounds better than going back to Mars. The trial of Varaka was older than the Empire. It was not just a test of strength. It was a test of will, memory, and soul. They dropped Cal into a stone chamber, with no doors. He stood alone, then the walls melted into mist, and the maze began. At first, Cal tried to map the place. He walked carefully. Every step felt strange, like gravity was changing around him. Then came the voices. Old memories. His commander shouting, the cries of civilians. His own voice saying, I should have let them die, it would have been easier. He shook his head, not real. Then the monsters came, strange creatures, shadows with no faces. They attacked. Cal ran, used old tricks, set traps, made weapons from broken crystal. Then he found her, a half-destroyed combat drone, shaped like a humanoid. One arm missing, voice GL, double quotes, kill, please. It said. Cal knelt, not in surrender, but to help. He opened her panel, rewired the core, and spoke gently. Come on, soldier, you're not done yet. The AI blinked. Why me? Because we're in this together. It blinked again. I will follow. They moved together, now human and AI. At the maze's heart stood a mirror. In it, Cal saw himself kneeling before a glowing crown, smiling weakly. He stared for a long time. Then he raised a middle finger. I'm done with fake thrones. The mirror shattered. The maze exploded into light. Back in the palace, Queen Varelia stood watching from a crystal sphere. Her court stood behind her. Shocked. He passed, whispered one. He rewrote the test, said another. The queen smiled. Send. For him, let us see what more the human has to say. And somewhere in the mist of the maze, Cal Trenor walked forward. Tired but upright, he hadn't knelt. And the queen had noticed. Cal Trenor stood in a tall silver hallway with 2 guards on each side. He was still wearing the plain black uniform they gave him. His muscles ached. His head throbbed. But he stood tall. He had survived the trial of Varaka, and now he was being taken to the queen again. The guards said nothing. Cal didn't try to talk. He just walked. He was tired, but his mind was sharp. He had seen strange things in that maze, his own fears, fake memories, even monsters made of mist. But nothing broke him, and now the queen wanted to see him again. That made him nervous, but not afraid. The door to the throne room opened. Queen Varelia was waiting alone this time. The throne room was empty. No court, no guards, no audience. Just her, standing beside a long water pool that ran through the center of the chamber. She was tall and calm as before. Her silver hair shimmered under the lights. Her long, royal robe moved like silk in water. You survived, she said softly. As he entered, Cal stopped 5 steps away and gave a small shrug. I've been through worse. She turned and faced him. You were not supposed to make it. The trial changes for each person. It shows what breaks them. Then maybe I'm already broken, Cal said. The queen raised an eyebrow. Are you? Cal looked at the pool of water, then back at her. I don't know, but I'm not kneeling if that's what this is again. She smiled. It's not. She motioned for him to follow. He hesitated, then walked with her. They left the throne room and entered a garden. It was quiet. The air was warm. Trees with glowing blue leaves stood on soft silver grass. Strange birds with crystal wings flew over their heads. A soft stream flowed beside a white stone path. Beautiful. Cal said quietly. It's mine, the queen said. This place is only for those I trust. Then why bring me here? He asked. She looked at him. Because I don't trust you. But I want to understand you. They walked in silence for a while. Finally, she spoke again. No one has ever stood before me and refused to kneel without fear. Cal thought for a moment. I don't see the point of kneeling to someone I don't know. Respect is earned. That is not how it works in the Empire, she said. I'm not from the Empire. Exactly, she replied. They stopped near a small bridge. The stream flowed gently under it. I've seen many great warriors, she said. They knelt because they wanted to be chosen, they wanted power, or they feared my judgment. But you didn't come for reward or respect? I didn't come at all, Cal said. You kidnapped me, she gave him a sideways look. True, and yet you're still here, he leaned on the stone rail. Because you said you'd listen if I survived. And what do you want to tell me? Cal looked her in the eyes. I don't think you're looking for a warrior. I think you're looking for someone who'll tell you the truth. The Queen's expression didn't change, but she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Come. They entered a new hall round. Dark, filled with stars. The ceiling looked like deep space. Holograms floated in the air battle maps, ancient empires, histories of war and peace. This is the Chamber of Crowns, Virelia said. It holds the memory of every ruler before me. She pointed to a large glowing circle. Inside was an image of an old Altherian king holding a sword. My great-grandfather, he conquered half the galaxy. No one challenged him. Another circle showed a queen with many advisors around her. My grandmother. She built the empire into a center of science and culture. Cal looked at her. And you? I ended all outside wars, Virelia said. Made peace. Built the most powerful system of laws in history. So why are you still searching for someone? Cal asked. She walked slowly between the holograms. Because power without someone to share it with is a cage. I see everything. I know everything. But I cannot trust anyone. Not even your own people. They tell me what they think I want to hear, she said. I ask them to challenge me. They bow instead. Cal folded his arms. Sounds lonely. It is. They stopped in the center of the chamber. You were not chosen by a test. You were not raised to please me. You were just you, she said. That is why I watched you closely. You helped a broken machine. You faced your fears. You spoke your mind. Cal said, because I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. She smiled. Exactly. Then her expression changed. But my court will not accept this. They already question why a human stands in my presence. Some believe I've grown weak. And, you? Cal asked. I believe I finally found someone honest. She said. Later that day, the Queen invited him to a formal dinner, but it wasn't just a dinner. It was a political test. Her advisors and top nobles sat around a long floating table lit by slow-moving starlights. Plates with strange alien dishes floated above glowing discs. Music from soft instruments played in the background. Cal wore the same black uniform. Everyone else wore rich robes or metal armor. He was the only human there. The Queen sat at the head of the table. She did not speak at first. She let her council speak instead. Why is this human honored with a seat at your table? One of them asked. Has he done something worthy? Another demanded. Cal picked up a silver fruit, sniffed it, and took a bite. The court gasped. You eat before the Queen? Someone whispered. Cal looked at them. Didn't realize we needed permission to chew. The Queen chuckled quietly. One noble slammed his fist. He disrespects the traditions. No, Virelia said calmly. He respects his own. The room went silent again. Cal put the fruit down and looked around. You all speak of honor like it's a costume you wear. But honor means doing the right thing, not just following the rules. And who are you to teach us about right and wrong? A general snapped. Cal leaned forward. I'm someone who's been shot at, betrayed, blamed, and still helped people. Anyway, I've seen leaders who ordered lies. I've seen soldiers who saved lives without being asked. That's honor. The room tensed. But the Queen said, let him speak. You test warriors, Cal said to her. But I think you're really testing yourself. You want someone to prove that power doesn't mean control. Virelia nodded slowly. And you still don't kneel. Cal smiled. Not unless I'm tying my boots. A few nobles laughed to spite themselves. That night, As Cal walked back to his guest quarters, he noticed something strange. Two guards were missing from the hallway. Then he heard a soft sound like metal scraping. He ducked just in time. A dagger flew past his head and struck the wall. 3 masked attackers rushed him. Cal rolled behind a pillar. He picked up a metal lamp and swung it at the first attacker's head. Clang! The figure dropped. Another came at him with an energy blade. Cal grabbed the attacker's wrist and slammed them into the wall. The last one reached into their coat. Cal kicked their leg out and pinned them to the ground. More guards arrived. The attackers vanished using cloaking tech, but not before dropping something. Ring with a royal court symbol on it. Later, Cal stood before Queen Varelia again. She looked at the ring in her hand. "Someone tried to have you killed," she said. Quietly. "Looks like," Cal answered. "I know whose mark this is," she said. "They fear you?" Cal asked. "Why? Because I'm just a guy who won't kneel?" "No," she said. "Because you remind me of what they forgot, that truth doesn't kneel either." They stood in silence. Then she said, "You may return home if you wish. Or you may stay and advise me." Cal raised an eyebrow. "You want me to advise you?" "You already have," she said. He looked out the window at the stars. Then he smiled. "All right, but I'm going to need better food." The queen laughed. Real laugh, not royal or cold. And so, a human who wouldn't kneel began to change the heart of an empire one conversation at a time. It had been 2 weeks since Cal Trenner became a guest, not a prisoner, in the palace of Queen Varelia. He no longer wore the simple black uniform. Now he wore something more tailored, a deep gray suit with armored threads, designed by royal makers, still simple, still strong. He liked it, but what he didn't like was the attention. Everywhere he went, people stared. Altherian nobles whispered behind his back. Some smiled politely. Some looked ready to kill him. He wasn't sure which made him more nervous. Cal had been invited into meetings, dinners, and planning councils. At first he said little. He listened, watched, learned, but soon he began to speak, and when he did, people listened. Because Cal didn't talk like the others, he didn't use fancy titles. He didn't try to impress anyone. He just said the truth, and truth in a palace full of politics was like fire in dry grass. The day began with shouting. Inside the queen's war chamber, 3 generals stood before a glowing star map. They argued about a border dispute with a nearby system. "The Zentari Empire moved ships into our neutral zone," General Kalvar shouted. "It is an act of war," General Issa shook her head. "If we fire first, we will lose our peace alliances. They will not respect us if we appear weak." Queen Varelia sat at the head of the long table. Her fingers were steepled. Her face calm. Cal stood at her right, silent, watching. Finally she turned to him. "Advisor Cal, your thoughts?" The room went quiet. The generals looked at him like he was a joke, but Cal stepped forward and pointed at the map. "Look here," he said, zooming in. "The Zentari fleet isn't positioned for war. Their weapons are cold. Engines are low. That's not a strike group. It's a patrol or maybe a bluff." Culver frowned. "You presume to know their tactics?" Cal didn't blink. "I know fear when I see it. They're nervous. Maybe they heard rumors that you've grown soft. Maybe they wanted to poke the bear. Then we should strike." Culver barked. Cal shook his head. "No, you should invite them to the palace," the room erupted. "Invite them? To mock us? Insanity." Queen Varelia raised her hand. "Silence," Cal explained. "Call them here. Show confidence, not aggression. Let them see you're not afraid, but not interested in war either. If they refuse, it's proof they were planning something. If they come, you get answers and control the room." The queen smiled. "I agree." Later that evening, Cal sat alone in the palace garden. The trees glowed faintly in the dark, like stars resting on branches. He leaned back on a stone bench, watching the sky. Footsteps approached. It was Arianai, the AI drone he had repaired during the trial of Varaka. She had been given a new body, sleek, tall, humanoid, with glowing blue circuits on her arms. "You always come here after meetings," she said. "Quiet place to think," Cal replied. She tilted her head. "Why do you help her? Varelia?" "Yes." "You could have left," Cal sighed. "Because she listens." That's rare, Ariane sat beside him. She's powerful. But her own people think she's becoming weak. Then maybe it's time they learn strength doesn't always mean fear. There was silence between them. Then she asked, "Do you trust her?" Cal thought long. "I'm starting to." In a dark room far from the palace, several nobles gathered in secret. One of them held the ring that had been dropped during the failed attack on Cal. He survived, one hissed. And now she lets him speak in court. He's changing her. She laughs more. She smiles, she listens. The noble with the ring slammed the table. "This is not the Altherian way. We must act again?" "No," the leader said. "This time, we make the human destroy himself." The next day, Cal entered the queen's chamber for a private talk. She wore simpler robes today, white and silver. She looked less like a queen and more like a person. "I received a message," she said, handing him a crystal tablet. Cal took it and read the words. It was a recording from Earth, a voice he knew. Commander Rios, the man who had kicked him out of the military. "Cal Trenner is a traitor," the voice said. "He disobeyed orders, caused a failed operation, and cost lives. He does not represent Earth. He is a disgrace." The message ended. Cal clenched his jaw. "I never thought he'd still be chasing me," he muttered. The queen studied him. "Is it true, what he said?" Cal sat down. "Yes, I disobeyed. I broke orders, but it was the right thing to do. There were families hiding in that building. The intel was wrong." She was quiet. Then she asked, "Would you do it again?" "In a heartbeat." She smiled. "I believe you." The next day, Queen Virelia made a bold announcement. She would host a public peace banquet, and the Zentari delegates had accepted. It would be held in the Grand Tower, with leaders from dozens of allied planets. It would be the biggest event in 10 years, and Cal was to be seated beside the queen. The court lost their minds. Unheard of. He's not even Altherian. It's dangerous. But the queen gave no room for argument. "He is my advisor. He speaks the truth when others only echo. He has earned this place." The night of the banquet arrived. The palace glowed like a star. Ships filled the sky above. Crowds gathered to watch the leaders arrive. Inside, the tower hall was filled with light, sound, and color. Music played from every corner. The food came in endless waves, flavors from 50 worlds. The queen stood tall in her royal armor, sharp and stunning. Cal stood beside her, dressed in dark silver, with a plain black sash across his chest. He looked calm, but he was nervous. The Zentari walked in, tall and thin, with armor like bone and faces like masks. Everyone watched. Would they bow? Would they insult? But their leader walked up, nodded to the queen and nodded to Cal. Then he said, "Let peace be stronger than fear." Applause. The night was a success, or so it seemed. Hours later, as the music faded and guests began to leave, Cal stepped onto a balcony to breathe, and that's when he saw them, 3 nobles, standing in a circle, talking fast, looking angry. One of them held a small black device. He moved closer, hiding behind a column. He listened. "We placed the signal in the humans' quarters. It will look like he leaked palace secrets. He'll be arrested. She have no choice. And Earth will be blamed. A perfect collapse." Cal froze. He didn't know their names. But he knew what they were planning. He turned and rushed toward the queen's private guard post. A few minutes later, Queen Virelia stood inside Cal's room. Her guards had torn it apart. There was the black device planted under his bed. But Cal was there too. "I didn't touch it," he said. "I heard them. I can describe every one of them." The queen looked at him, then she turned to Ariane. "Check the palace recordings. Match his words." Within minutes, the AI confirmed it. Cal was telling the truth, and the nobles were caught. The queen's eyes were cold. "I offered them peace," she said. "They gave me betrayal." Cal stood beside her. "You still want to lead them?" She was silent for a moment, then she said, "Yes, but now I lead with open eyes." That night she called a closed meeting with her most trusted allies, the traitor. Nobles were arrested quietly. Rumors spread. But no facts leaked. In the middle of all this, Cal sat with the queen in her garden. No guards. No titles. Just them. She looked at him. "You stood beside me. Even when it was dangerous. Cal smiled. I told you, I don't kneel. But I don't walk away either, Varelia tilted her head. You speak like a king? Cal laughed. Let's not go that far. Why not? She asked. Do you think the Empire needs another warrior? No. Cal said, I think it needs a partner who tells the truth. She leaned closer. Then maybe I've found what I was really looking for. The sun on Altherian Prime had no true warmth. It was a giant silver orb, cold and powerful, lighting the marble towers and crystal streets below. Inside the palace, everything had changed. Queen Varelia had removed 3 nobles from power. She had placed new guards. Trusted ones. And at her right side stood Cal Trenner, no longer just the human. Now he was a symbol. Some hated him, some feared him, but many had started to admire him. Still, danger had not disappeared. That morning, Cal walked beside Arianai. Through the garden path, the AI, now dressed in a flowing cloak of soft white, had become more human in her ways. She spoke with pauses. She tilted her head when thinking. She had even learned how to smile. You are becoming part of this world. She told Cal. Not sure if that's a good thing, he replied. Queen Varelia trusts you. Cal stopped walking. Yeah, I just don't know if that trust puts a target on me or on her. Arianai said nothing. But her eyes glowed a soft blue. They both knew something was coming. In the shadows of the city, the nobles who escaped arrest were gathering. Their leader, Drexel Vorn, stood in a black hall. Surrounded by ancient weapons and war banners, he was once a hero. Now a bitter man. The queen has lost her way, he snarled. She smiles at the enemy. She listens to a human. The others muttered, some nodding, some afraid. We can still save the Empire, Drexel said. We take back the throne with the sword, if needed, and the queen, she will live. But the human dies. That night, Queen Varelia stood at her balcony, looking at the stars. Cal joined her silently. For a moment, they just stood together. Then she spoke. When I was young, I was trained to rule without love, without emotion. My tutors said feelings are poison to strength. She looked at him. But you speak with emotion. You fight for people, not for power. Cal nodded. Maybe that's why I got kicked out of my own military. She smiled. Maybe that's why you're the one I chose. He raised an eyebrow. To what? Rule beside you? Her smile faded into seriousness. Yes. Cal's heart skipped. He stepped back slightly. You're serious? Deadly, she said. The nobles think I'm weak. But if I stand beside someone who commands respect not by birth, but by action, they'll see strength in a new way. Cal was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, You want me to be, what? King of a planet that isn't mine? No, Varelia said. Not king, consort, equal, you would still be you. No crown unless you want it. Cal ran a hand through his hair. This is insane, yes, she said gently. But it might also be the future. The next day, the announcement was made. Queen Varelia would take an off-world consort. A human. The palace buzzed with voices, shouts, cheers, panic. Some nobles fainted, others ran to their rooms to prepare protests, but many ordinary citizens, workers, soldiers, scholars reacted with excitement. This will bring peace with Earth. She trusts him. He saved her life. He's not perfect, but he's real. The streets flooded with color, but Drexel Vorn saw it as a signal. This is the end, he said to his followers. Unless we act now. Later that week, Cal was asked to visit the Hall of Memories, a place where past rulers were honored. He arrived alone. A mistake. Inside, he found Drexel Vorn waiting. I knew she would send you here, Drexel said, stepping forward with calm steps. Cal looked around. No guards, no exits close by. What do you want? To remind you this isn't your place. Drexel walked in a circle. You are a man of war, not of peace. You think your words matter? This empire was built on strength. On discipline, not feelings. Cal kept still. I don't want your throne. No, Drexel said. But she does. And if you sit beside her, you change everything. Then Drexel drew a hidden blade, ancient, curved, glowing faintly red. You won't leave this room, human. Cal smiled slightly. Then you should have brought more men. The fight was brutal. Drexel was trained in royal blade combat. Fast. Ruthless, but Cal had survived worse. He blocked with a broken piece of statue. He countered with raw power. Steel clashed. Sparks flew. Drexel cut across Cal's arm. Cal kicked him hard against the memorial wall, but the noble rose again, roaring, charging at the last second. Cal used his belt latch, pulling a hidden pulse grenade. It exploded in silence, knocking Drexel out cold. Cal fell to one knee, breathing hard. Blood dripped. But he was alive. Guards arrived too late. Arya and I came flying in, eyes glowing. I told you not to go alone. You were right, Cal groaned. She helped him stand. Let's go tell the queen. In the royal healing chamber, Varelia looked at Cal's wound with quiet fury. I should have predicted Drexel. Cal winced as nanobots stitched his skin. I underestimated how far they'd go. No more, she said. We finish this, in public. He nodded. Expose them all. Cleanly? She touched his shoulder. I need you beside me. Then that's where I'll be? 3 days later, in the Chamber of Flame, where royal law was made, Queen Varelia summoned the council. Dozens of nobles gathered, high commanders, old bloodlines. New leaders. Cal stood behind her, healed but still sore. Varelia spoke loud and clear. Drexel Vorn attacked my advisor and consort-to-be. He acted in secret against the crown, but he did not act alone. Gasps, murmurs. I have evidence, she said. I have witnesses. And I have a choice. She turned slowly. I can purge the court, burn the roots. Begin again, silence, or we build a new court. One with courage, not pride. One with loyalty, not fear. She stepped forward. Those who swear true loyalty now will have a place in my future. Then she turned to Cal and held out her hand. He took it, every noble saw. Some stood and bowed. Others walked out, but none dared attack. The power had shifted. Not because of blood, but because of truth. That night, Cal sat alone in the garden once more. Arya and I joined him. You're bleeding again, she said, pointing to his shoulder. It's just the bandage. You are not made for peace, he laughed. Neither is this world. Arya and I looked up at the stars. You gave the queen something rare. What? A future she chose herself. Queen Varelia met Cal on the balcony again. She wore no crown tonight, only simple robes. She looked tired, but proud. You still haven't said yes? She said. Cal leaned on the rail. I never planned to be a ruler. You won't be. You'll be my mirror, my challenge, my balance. He looked at her. Then smiled. Okay, her eyes widened. You're serious? As serious as a human can be. She stepped forward. Then tomorrow we tell the galaxy. Cal nodded, but no kneeling. She laughed. Never. The day had come. Across the stars, screens lit up with a single message. Queen Varelia to announce her future. On Earth, people paused. On Altherian Prime, every eye turned toward the sky. And in many other systems, leaders leaned forward with interest or dread. Inside the palace, Cal stood in front of a tall mirror. He didn't wear armor. He didn't wear a crown. He wore a simple dark suit, strong and clean, with the queen's royal emblem stitched small near the chest. He looked into his own eyes. Still you, he whispered. Arya and I entered. She's waiting. In the Grand Sky Hall, 1,000 nobles, soldiers and off-world guests stood in silence. The walls were open to the wind. The twin moons hung above. Queen Varelia walked forward slowly, dressed in her ceremonial robe. Her silver crown shone and her voice was calm but strong. For centuries we believed strength came from silence, that a ruler must lead without love, that showing mercy meant showing weakness. She looked around the hall, but times change. Empires fall and new ones rise. She raised her hand. Today I stand before you not just as your queen but as a ruler who chooses a future of honesty, unity, and courage. She stepped aside, and beside me stands the one who reminded me that strength can live beside truth. Cal walked forward, quiet but steady. Gasps ran through the crowd. He didn't bow. He stood beside her. Above. Not below. Just equal. This is my choice, she said. This is my future. And then in front of everyone she placed a small silver band on his wrist. Not a crown, not a chain, A symbol. The crowd stood frozen for a heartbeat. Then applause thundered across the sky. But in the shadows far below, Drexel Vorn's plan was moving. He had escaped arrest weeks ago. Fled to an off-world station. But he hadn't been idle. A fleet of stolen ships now floated just beyond sensor range. Their weapons charged. Their engines humming inside his lead ship. Drexel stared at the live broadcast. "Enjoy your celebration, traitors," he whispered. "It ends today." Back at the palace, Cal walked with Varelia into the private chamber. She smiled. "You didn't trip." "That's a good start," Cal chuckled. "Next challenge, trying alien food again without choking." Then the alert came. Red pulse flashed in the wall. Arianaya's voice spoke from the air. "Queen, Cal, we have a problem." They both turned serious. Report. "Unknown fleet approaching orbit. 15 ships, armed, no ID." Cal's voice hardened. "Drexel?" Varelia nodded. "It has to be." Arianai said, "We must evacuate or engage." Varelia looked at Cal. He nodded. "No running." In the palace war room, officers rushed. Tactical maps glowed. Ships moved like fireflies. The Royal Guard mobilized. Cal studied the data. "They'll hit our outer defenses in 4 minutes. Shields?" Varelia asked. "Ready, but the city will still shake." "Then we take the fight off-world," she said. She turned to General Issa. "Ready my personal cruiser." "And bring the Leviathan," the general blinked. "You're going into battle yourself?" "I will not hide while my people bleed," Cal smiled. "Then I guess I'm your co-pilot." 10 minutes later, the Queen's silver cruiser sleek and sharp blasted out of the city. Behind it came the Leviathan, the largest Altherian battleship ever built. It moved like a moon with engines, covered in gun platforms and shield nodes. Cal sat in the co-pilot seat. His hands gripped controls that felt half alien, half familiar. "I hope you remember the training sims," Varelia said. "Only the parts where we win." The battle began. Drexel's ships opened fire first. Red beams sliced through space. The Leviathan returned fire, massive cannons roaring. Fighter squadrons danced like insects in flame. Varelia's cruiser darted through the chaos. A streak of light and danger. Inside, Cal focused. "Cut left. There's a blind spot near that freighter wreck." Varelia swerved, avoiding a missile by inches. Arianaya's voice buzzed in. "Enemy boarding ship approaching." Cal muttered, "Of course there is." The boarding craft slammed into the cruiser's hull, a deep echo. Then the hiss of atmosphere. "They're inside," Cal shouted. "Virell." I handed him a pulse pistol. "Let's greet them." In the hallway, 4 Drexel soldiers in dark armor stormed in. Cal fired fast. One went down. Another aimed at Varelia, but Cal tackled him. Fists, elbows, a flash of plasma. Varelia kicked the last attacker into the wall, then sealed the door with a wave of her hand. Heavy breathing, blood on the floor. But they stood. Cal wiped his mouth. "At all of them?" Arianaya's voice. "No, Drexel himself is approaching in a flagship." Varelia's eyes narrowed. "Then we end this." They returned to the cockpit. The screen lit up. Drexel's face appeared, sneering. "You've become weak, Varelia," she answered, calm and cold. "No, I've become wise," Drexel laughed. "And you're human? Does he think this fairy tale will save you?" Cal leaned forward. "No, but I think shooting first will." He pressed a button. A secret cannon under the cruiser's wing blasted Drexel's flagship with a direct hit. The shields cracked, alarms flashed, and Varelia gave the order. "All ships fire full power now." The space lit up like a second sun. Missiles, lasers, particle beams. Drexel's fleet buckled. One ship exploded. Another fled. His flagship was hit again and began spinning. Inside it, Drexel shouted, trying to regain control. But the end had come. The Leviathan locked weapons. One final shot, and Drexel's ship vanished in fire. Silence fell across space. Then cheers filled the comms. The attack was over. The traitor was dead. The Queen had won again. Back on the surface, the people filled the streets. Not with fear. With joy. Cal and Varelia walked together through the royal plaza. Children waved. Soldiers saluted. For the first time in generations, Altherian felt something new call on hope. In the palace garden. Days later, Cal sat watching the silver trees sway in The breeze Virelia joined him, barefoot. No crown today? He asked. I've worn it enough. They sat in peace, then she asked, You miss Earth? Sometimes. But I don't think Earth misses me. You belong here now. He looked at her, double quotes, No, I belong with you. She smiled, and then for the first time she kissed him, No ceremony. No cameras, just two people who refused to kneel for anything but truth.